Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today, I am back. Well, I didn't go anywhere as far as you the viewer are concerned. Today, my brain is working in reverse because we're doing Bizarro. It's not the reason why it's working in reverse, it's because I woke up early today. That's why it's like that. But just conveniently, I'm also drawing Bizarro today. We're going to be talking a little bit about expressions along the way. And I'm also doing a full body pose for the first time in quite some time, so yeah, you'll be getting that as well. So yeah, I'll be getting a full page shot of Bizarro. If you needed more Bizarro, this is always where you can find it, I suppose. This full page shot of Bizarro. I've also got the light. Don't know what I was seeing there for a second. There was an odd lighting change going on up there. Ooh, a bird. Anyways. I've got my light, which you may have seen in the Unlicensed Show video, which may or may not have released by this point. I'm not sure. It should have released by this point. Yeah, it should be out by this time. Anyways, I've been rambling for nearly 2 minutes now. That's a hell of a lot longer than I normally do these intros for. So anyways, I'll roll the intro, and then we will begin. So yeah. Alright, so, yeah, this is what we got. This is what we got for Bizarro. I forgot to mention that my light will definitely help to try and keep the lighting consistent, more or less, as obviously I use daylight as a primary source of my lighting, but I've now got a little bar light in front of me, and there's also obviously the lamp back there that'll turn on whenever it gets too dark. So yeah, I've got a bit of a better lighting setup now. You'll get to enjoy that at least. Anyways, this is what we got for Bizarro. As I said, full body shot, and yeah, so I had to use the Frankenstein method, as is custom, and as is appropriate, I suppose, for making Bizarro. The Frankenstein method, for those of you that have not seen a prior episode where I've defined that term, is simply just to say that I got a bunch of different pieces of reference and then I hodgepodge them together, much like how the monster is created in Frankenstein. Bits and pieces here and there coalescing into one thing, which sort of approximates a human. Anyways, yeah, so as I said, expressions is our dealio today, and I got Bizarro doing this weird kind of funky expression here. It's kind of like half smile, half grimace thing going on. So the important thing when you're doing expressions is that you can just kind of do whatever. Largely whenever you're trying to make a face expressive, you can kind of exaggerate things in a way that isn't quite realistic, as I've done here, because it's quite hard to like make that face without like really scrunching in your eyes, but obviously his eyes are not scrunched in, so he's making this just really weird face. He's missing a bunch of teeth. His teeth are odd shapes, but yeah, he's got like weird jacked up teeth and all this stuff, and his kind of weird wrinkly face. His eyes here are not filled in, and the reason for that is I think I'm just going to give him the full blues that he has a lot of the time. A lot of the time he just has straight up like a full blue that sort of glows. Now I don't know if I should bother doing that, because it's very similar to giving Superman just the red eyes the whole time. I might just make them black, because they are black a lot of the time. Bizarro has like black eyes a lot of the time. Just like a full little black dot is what he has a lot of the time, if not the full blue. So we'll see how I feel. I've just set that up in such a way where I don't have to do it, or I don't have to commit just yet. But yeah, so he's got his weird kind of messy hair and all this stuff, and yeah. So certain things as it relates to expressions, because again that is our primary topic here, so I should maybe dedicate a couple of minutes to it at the very least. As it relates to expressions, certain things go a long way to selling it. For example, whenever you're doing anything with the mouth, any sort of weird mouth expression, these wrinkles here, your smile lines, are very important. because they sell it. So for example, with this little kind of jaggedy sort of smile line here, because he's got maybe a different shaped face to me, I've got the way that my face is shaped doesn't really give you that kind of curl up like that. Mine is mostly just kind of goes out and then down. Which again, this is the thing. There's a variety of these things, but generally speaking, here I gave him this kind of like inward point here and then down and further down, as well as crow's feet, because that can also accentuate a smile, is narrowing the eye and giving the crow's feet here. It does look a little strange to see me speaking and not really using my mouth while I'm doing it, but yeah. These little crow's feet you'll obviously get. I don't have very defined crow's feet, but you would get that there. I more so get the kind of wrinkle under the eyes, where so whenever I'm doing any sort of like smile like that, that kind of defines the under eye area for me. But my eyes actually, for me, my eyes don't play a very large factor in smiling, which is a thing that can contribute to making a smile look very non-genuine in real life. But that is unfortunately just how some people smile, like me. Anyways, yeah, so in this instance, a lot of the time you're maybe going to want to try and... The eyes are a very important part of selling an expression, as with the mouth. But again, nose is just as important. So for example, here his nose is a little scrunched up, not super scrunched up, because whenever you smile, your nose does flare out a little bit. Your nostrils do slightly flare out. Depends on the person's nose, of course, but you know, whenever you smile, you get these little kind of... There is a little bit of motion here. That's not quite the same as being angry, because whenever you do an angry face, your nose scrunches up. It scrunches up aggressively and it folds all the way up. And again, it's like everyone knows these things, because you know when you look at someone that, oh, that person's angry. You know, looking at someone, you know these things whenever you see someone, but this is the thing, it's just it's internalizing it so that whenever you're drawing, that you don't just kind of simplify things. And obviously it depends. You don't want to overdo certain expressions, because that'll make someone look old. So for example here, obviously I've given him all these lines in his face, and that's mostly because that's just kind of how Bizarro's face is. He's got this kind of like weird kind of crinkly, monstery kind of face going on, and his big hairy eyebrows that I've given him. So for him that works, but if I were doing Superman, I obviously wouldn't be able to get away with doing all of the, like say Superman's doing a big smile, I wouldn't put the lines coming out from the nose, I would just put the lines here so that it doesn't connect. So generally speaking, if you want to make a face look a little less, if you want to try and make someone look a bit more youthful but still have a very large expression, a lot of that comes down to where you position your lines. You aren't going to want to put a lot of lines. You're going to want to minimize certain lines. You're going to want to minimize lines around the eyes and lines around the nose. So you're going to want to put in only the necessary ones, same with the forehead obviously, but largely with most expressions you're not going to be using the forehead unless it's something like kind of like bewilderment or surprise or something like that. That's whenever you might use the forehead. But if you're drawing someone with youthful face, you might maybe put in one crease instead of the like 6 that I've got going on here. But yeah, that's maybe what you would do in that instance. Or say for example, you might, if someone's angry, you would put in the nose lines, but maybe not a huge amount of the other ones. You'd put in the nose lines and make the eyes a little smaller, bring down the eyebrows. Again, a lot of this stuff doesn't necessarily need the extra lines. For example, the anger, you can do a lot of that with just the eyebrows. Bring down the eyebrows, narrow the eyes. That's enough for a lot of the cases. And then obviously the mouth position. If someone's got a downward rounded mouth, you can presume that they're either sad or angry. And if they've got the angry eyebrows and then the narrow eyes, you can presume, okay, they're angry. You don't necessarily need to do the nose stuff, but that's just extra stuff that'll help them. But obviously if someone's older, you're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more of that stuff, because whenever you get older, you get more wrinkles. So you will see this stuff a lot more whenever someone's face is older. But obviously you're drawing someone with a youthful face, you wouldn't want to overdo that stuff. But yeah, that's what I mean by that stuff. But yeah, the rest of the pose here is pretty simple. He's just he's just doing this. He's like, yeah, me and Bizarro. That's what's going on here. I don't know necessarily. I guess I guess my thought process here is that I interpret Bizarro to be vain because Superman is not vain, or that Bizarro is very proud of himself in some way, shape, or form. I guess maybe because Bizarro is obviously the opposite, his opposite day. So yeah, I'm not sure in that sense. I don't know. I guess that was maybe the thought process, something like that. I just think it's a fun pose. He's technically doing like the Superboy pose, but in reverse. Because the Superboy pose is obviously pointing to the back where the S is on the jacket. But this is kind of the opposite of where he's just pointing to his shoulders, really. Yeah, I mean, I think I've maybe rambled enough here. This is technically 12 minutes into the video, but I'm going to be cutting a lot of that out. So, yeah, anyways. I don't think I need to ramble a huge amount more. This is obviously the exact... I've done literally the exact same design I did for Superman last time I drew him at Christmas. But obviously I've done stuff like Cape is ripped. You can see boots now. You couldn't see his boots in Superman's prior design. The S is backwards, that's the obvious one, and his hair is a different shape. He's got messier hair, and his hair parts in the middle, where Superman's parts at the side. So it's maybe an opposite thing, sort of. But yeah, Superman obviously had very kempt eyebrows, whereas Bizarro does not. And obviously his hair is very messy and all this stuff. It's a little long, all this stuff. Yes, when it comes to the colors, I will be doing the purples as opposed to just doing Superman's colors. Because that's a thing which a lot of people do as well. He just has Superman's colors, but the S is backwards. I prefer whenever he's got distinct colors, because that just looks more interesting to me. But that's what I'll be doing. Anyways, let's get into it, I suppose. Yeah, let's start. I will do these details, and then obviously I'll be back for the colors after this, where we'll get a little bit more, obviously, discussion of the opposite day colored thing. And then I'll probably explain a little bit more of the detailed stuff that I've been doing. But yeah, anyways, we'll do these details, and then I'll be back. Alrighty, that is our details done. That was a detailed situation, as I would say, and that it took a long time. But yeah, I think we've got a decent looking bit of detailing done. Again, obviously the face is where time was mostly taken, because I mean naturally that's typically what's going to happen. The face is typically the most detailed part, so that's usually where the time is going to go. So yeah, yeah. With that, the next step is our colors. But there was one thing which I was considering saying that I've kind of forgotten about now. Yeah, I still kind of don't know what to do with his eyes. I think I'm going to probably color them in black, but not the full black. But I'll leave them at this size. I'll leave them as big. Because I feel like maybe that makes him look a little bit more sympathetic. Give him big eyes. What was I going to say now? I don't really remember. So yeah, I'm going to be going with the purples as my kind of color scheme here. I'm going to go for something which is obviously darker than what my Superman colors are. My Superman colors are typically pretty bright. I tend to use a pretty bright red and pretty bright blue, but here I'm going to use a kind of purpley blue, and then obviously a reddier purple. And I'm probably going to use a warmer yellow too. But yeah, realistically speaking, colors here shouldn't be too difficult. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in terms of the background here, actually. I'll probably have to figure that out pretty soon, because since his skin is like white or grey, I'm going to need to think about a color to throw on the background. I'm probably just going to throw like, you know, like yellow or something on the background. Just a color that doesn't isn't gonna make him blend in. I don't want it to be like super dark or something, so probably making him, or probably making the background yellow would probably be fine, I'd say. That'll probably work. Yes. Oh yeah, you can see that obviously the light is now starting to kick in. It's not even that dark, it's just a little dim. So this is what it's going to do for me. It's going to keep the lighting consistent, on me at least. So things aren't going to start, the low frame rate thing isn't going to get like super intense, because I'll be casting a degree of light on the room, which should do something at least. But yeah, I'm trying to think. There really was something I intended on saying that I just cannot remember anymore. I think I made a few adjustments to his hair, made it a little bit messier. I messed up his teeth a little bit more. And I made, I think I actually got the leg muscle to come out pretty well. Now, yeah, something which I didn't mention before is that I made him, I think, like, much more kind of balloony in terms of his muscle than Superman. Like, Superman already made him in the Christmas video very muscular, because that's typically how I tend to do Superman's kind of frame, as being like really big, and it's the same here with Bizarro, but I've made him a little bit bigger and kind of wider and stockier. Like you can even see he's got like quite a short torso and stuff like this, so he's like quite stocky. He seems like kind of short almost, but he's just really big and burly. So if you were to stand him next to Superman, he'd probably be about the same height, but he might like hunch in and stuff like this, so you'd see more of everything kind of forced together, so he'd look a lot burlier and stockier. But yeah, that's the general idea of what I've been going for here. But yeah, I think I'm gonna make his eyes probably black, but I'll color them in black. I won't use just my default line black. I'll use something else. I'm thinking probably yellow for the background. We'll think about that. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think of something soon enough anyways. But I don't want to dawdle too long, because we're already going nearly 3 hours, and I only just finished the details. I still got a lot of other stuff to do. So, I'll do this. And I'll be back with the painted shading, which I would reckon on a drawing of this scale shouldn't be too difficult. But yeah, anyways. Okay, that's our colours and our background done. I'm not exactly going to be doing anything complex with the background, so this is what we've got. And naturally, as you can see, lighting has remained consistent, even though it is now dark. And I obviously had to turn on the lamp. And the frame rate didn't get bad, so realistically speaking, I shouldn't have to worry about any of those issues cropping up later, because that doesn't normally... It can occasionally cause a problem in the editing. But I'm not going to have to deal with that this time, because the lighting has remained consistent. Anyways, that is our colors done. Again, as I said, I tried to stick mostly to the realm of purple, however, some of these do kind of blend together a little bit. This kind of primary purple blends a little bit with the reddier one. So I'll have to do something about this. Probably shading will maybe help with that, but we'll see, because I've got to do the painted shading now, and we're nearing 4 hours. We're nearing the 4-hour mark. So realistically speaking, I can get this done pretty handily, I would say, within an hour ish. But yeah, this has been a bit of a longer one, as these things go. So yeah, I will just kind of hop right into the painted shading here, and then I'll be back to do the detailed shading and the light line, and that'll be us. So realistically speaking, we're in the home stretch. But yeah, anyways, I'll continue. Okay, that is our painted shading done. So now it is time for the detailed shading and the light line all rolled into one, which shall be our final section. So this in theory shouldn't take too long, and once that's done, that is us. Yeah, I'm mostly happy with this. Even though the showcase was mostly on expressions, which was something which, technically speaking, I'd already done before the video began, I still got something out of this, I think. And since I haven't done one of these in a long time, this is one of those things where, of course, you, the viewer, won't notice any different, but it has been some time since I recorded one of these. Many weeks. Several months, I think, actually, since I recorded one of these. So I'm at a point of where I kind of haven't found the flow yet. It takes a few of these before I manage to get back into the flow of things. But I think I've got a healthy, good selection of drawings on the horizon. So we'll see. We'll see how those turn out. But yeah, so far I think this one's going pretty well. But I will get things moving again. So I will do the detailed shading and the light line, and then I'll be back to do the gradient maps and all the finishing touches, and then sort of say goodbye. So yeah, anyways. Okay, that is our detailed shading and our light line done, meaning that's basically us done. However, I do have to do gradient maps, and we're nearing the 5-hour mark, so I'm going to use this opportunity to very quickly wrap things up. So I'm going to go for obviously a purple and yellow color palette. We don't want this to be too dark, so I'll just bring that up to be about there, and then make this one red, make it about there, bring it up a tiny bit. There we go, that's our color palette, something nice and sunsetty. How's it looking on overlay? On overlay it basically just turns his colors into Superman, which is kind of funny. So we're going to turn that down to 60%. You don't want it to brighten up those purples too much, which is an interesting problem to have. I'm not used to having that problem here, of where the colors transform in just completely wrong. We still want this kind of ratio to be correct, because again, in the shading I managed to tilt these a little bit more to be different, because I felt like in the default colors they weren't different enough, so I did manage to screw around with them and make it a little better. So yeah, right, now we're going to throw a color burn on top, make that about 5%. As soon as I can manage that, that one wants to be on top. I'm going to put the luminosity underneath that, I think. Soft light should be in the middle. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Okay, so now I need to grab my texture, and then that should be us. I'm not going to do the texture super intense, however I don't want this to be super dark, as these things tend to be. I don't need it to be dark, so I'll just do this, rotate clockwise, and just make it bigger like that, and make it an overlay, bring it up to about 25, or do we just want 20? I think we just want 20. 20 is good enough, I would say. Let me zoom in and take a look. So it's going to obviously affect the background more than our character. Let me just turn it on and off. It does still, yeah, it is still visible. It does still brighten things up a nice little bit. So yeah, that is us done. So yeah, in terms of new things, this is, I mean, it's the first time we've done a full body pose in a while. I didn't really talk about that, I guess. I like doing full body poses every now and then. They're fun. They take obviously a lot, well, they take, I wouldn't say a lot longer, but they do take a little bit longer because there's obviously more character to draw. However, there's obviously less space that they're occupying, so technically speaking, I don't know if I'd say it's necessarily longer. I mean, I always draw it 4x3, so this is a, the length of this is 4 inches, and then the width is 3. And so if I'm doing a horizontal one, that means it's still 4 width, 3 height. So technically speaking, if you were to turn this the other way around, he does take up more of the screen than a mid shot would. So I suppose technically this is there is more character on show here than there would be in a mid shot. So technically speaking, there is more to this than the average drawing. But yeah, I mean, again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, Frankenstein method does make stuff like this a little easier, because it's often quite rare that you'll have a pose which you 100% like. So the Frankenstein method, as I defined earlier on, helps whenever you find a piece of reference that you like, but it doesn't necessarily have the legs that you want, or it has an arm that you like, but the other arm you don't like. So you can start tinkering with that and make a combination that you ultimately like a lot more. But yeah, that's the method I tend to use nowadays anyways, because it just makes things easier. It just makes things easier. I don't have to rely too much on the one piece of reference to be good. I can just work with a collection of pieces of reference that are a little better when combined, but individually aren't particularly useful. But yeah, I think overall this is a fun one. As I mentioned earlier on, I think I've got a pretty good lineup for this next few. So I think that's pretty good. Bizarro is a bit of an odd choice, I'll admit, but The next few are maybe strange choices, but I think they're fun. I think they're fun and interesting. So we'll see. We'll see how that rolls. But yeah, I am conscious of how long I've been recording, and it's getting a little late. So I've obviously had to do a lot of pauses because that's just the nature of how I record these. So I don't want to dawdle too much longer. So I'll just wrap things up and say goodbye. So if you liked the video, do whatever it is that you'd normally do, whether that be liking or not. I would of course prefer if you liked it, but I can't make you do that, nor would I particularly want to. Well, it doesn't really help that much, but it does help. So if you'd like to like it, I would of course like that. It's the same deal. If you want to subscribe, I would of course prefer that. That'd be a very nice thing to do. You don't have to do it. There's no obligation. Of course, prefer if you did, but you know I can't make you. So, and if you have any suggestions for what you'd like to see me draw in a future episode, I would be happy to hear them. So if you would like to do that, you could leave a comment. The nicer you word it, the more likely I am to do it. So yeah. And if you choose to watch the next video, I'll see you next time. So, with all that said, I'll say goodbye and I will leave you. So, bye-bye.